What's going on, guys? This is a visual novel about a man's journey into an underground black market inside of a cave to find a cure for his illness. This is going to be a 4-part series, each video focusing on one character's multiple different endings. This is just part 1, so the story itself isn't finished just yet, so there will be more videos once the game is fully released. But until then, I'm Hairypinecones, and this is Obscura. What's my safe word? We're going Pinecone. If you ever need or want to pause the gameplay, you can press the safe word button in the top right corner. This pauses the game and takes you to the safe word menu. Okay. The X key will also take you to the safe word menu during gameplay. Leaving the safe word menu will take you back to the game. The safe word button is hidden by default, but can always be seen by mousing over the top right corner of the window. It can be made always visible in the Preferences menu. Please enjoy Obscura. No one goes into the mountain without a reason. Purpose of business? Buying. No one takes their past into the mountain. How are you going to pay? Some funds, some work. Good luck with that. Everyone knows what it means when you go. No one says anything about it. Give me your bags. The guard looks through my things with perfect efficiency. Bored, they start asking me questions. What are you going to be called down there? Mister. What will you be called? Harry. Good choice. You have a mask, Mr. Harry? No one would sell me one. Not a problem here, if you're buying or selling. The guard waves to the masks hanging around the entrance, perhaps once worn by other visitors. The masks are an old custom, plausible deniability. We're all faceless strangers under the mountain. Pick your poison. The charcoal-colored one with worn lace and gold trim. The cream-colored one with flowery details painted across the left side. The burgundy-colored one with swirling embossed patterns. I'm going charcoal with gold trim. I take a mask off the wall and fit it to my face. It weighs on my head, but my mind feels lighter. I see my reflection in the mirror. The people under the mountain have beautiful taste. I hand the gate guard the money owed. Welcome to the marketplace. They step aside, allowing me passage into the tunnel in the side of the mountain. I begin my descent. At first, I have to wonder if I have been tricked in some way. The passage grows narrow, the air stale, and the path uneven. I am walking by the last, feeble threads of light that reach this deep. But then I see something. A shimmering pale blue glow from around a corner. I fight through the narrowing walls until I am able to turn the corner. The passage suddenly widens, then it opens. I step from the passage into a cavern, so massive I can hardly see the end of it. The marketplace. There are several masked people who are seated or leaning against the walls around this little entryway, and now they are approaching me. Welcome, newcomer. A fresh face. Someone new could use a guide, couldn't they? Hucksters, or perhaps petty thieves looking for an easy mark. My valuables are kept under my heavy robe, safe from pickpockets. I steel myself and march forward past the strangers. There is no logic to this place. A fishmonger selling dried and salted fish sits next to a bookseller with stacks of forbidden tomes. A fungusman and birdkeeper are bickering. If they weren't obvious scams, I could have taken one of the offers for a guide and saved myself some time. At first, I glance at each stall in turn. Out here, nearest the entry tunnel, all of the stalls are selling simple amenities or cheap thrills. The sorts of things a departing traveler might want to have when they ascend. Not what I'm looking for. It's not here. Well, I suppose it wouldn't be. Asking one of the sellers, I get directions. The rough walls of this cavern, shifting and trembling in uneasy candle and glowworm light, slowly turn smooth where natural walls turn to human carved. The ramshackle stalls turn to ramshackle buildings, to painted and varnished walls. The quality of goods on sale is improving as well. The cheap basics are behind me. Ahead are the rare, the luxurious, and the illicit. The real reason anyone comes here. Seeing the sign for an apothecary, an easily recognizable serpent coiling around a staff, I slip inside. Welcome. The shopkeeper is masked, of course, but that is not what grabs my attention. The din of hundreds of voices selling and buying and negotiating in the echoing caves is muffled, but not by much. That is because while the apothecary has 4 walls, there's no roof over the store. Newcomer, huh? What? You must be a fresh arrival. And why would you say that? You're staring at where the ceiling should be. I suppose in a city with no sun or rain, roofs are unnecessary. Only thing a roof keeps out in the marketplace is thieves. A common weather pattern here? Far too common. I make an effort to examine the apothecary's mask. It's plain. Plainer even than mine. Perhaps he is frugal, or perhaps he is poor by the standards of the marketplace. Well, you weren't driven in here by the weather. What do you need? I'm looking for Lunar Ichor. I resist the urge to explain my circumstances to the shopkeeper. No matter how meaningless or petty they seem, my secrets are one of the few resources I have in these depths. You have expensive taste, or terrible luck. What I don't have is a Lunar Ichor. Is that something you can remedy, apothecary? No. If money is a concern, I can make arrangements. It's not the money. I could never afford to stock that damnable Ichor. Even if I could, I doubt I'd be able to stomach it. The rumors were true then. That is unfortunate. Where does one go then to find that damnable Ichor? Smugglers' dens, the vaults of the lords of the market, or perhaps you could take a knife to the lunar god. Failing that, the auction house may provide. It's the largest house this side of the ruby walls. It even has a roof. The apothecary cannot see my smile, but I hope he can hear it. I thank you for your timely advice, sir. Save your thanks for the lunar god. It'll be a miracle if you get that Ichor. I take my leave of the shop. The noise rises again from loud to deafening. There are tunnels and additional caverns in all directions, but I continue the way I was going. If the walls are getting smoother and the buildings more beautiful, then I am approaching the richest part of the market. It stands to reason that is where the auction house will be. Keeping my eyes up, it takes no time to find the auction house. It is, as the apothecary said, the largest building this side of the ruby walls. There are long chains of glowworms draped over the promised, ridged roof that dangle and sway as the air shifts in the cavern. The building itself is deep, garnet red, with gilded trim. Message received. You're very wealthy, whoever built this. The doors, covered in tiny engravings impossible to interpret in the dim lights, are wide open. Bright, golden lamplight pours out onto the streets. People are freely milling in and out, and so I slip inside. I am underdressed for the occasion, but neither of the guards standing at the door move to stop me. The sound of the outside suddenly dims, and I have to blink against the sudden brightness. I can hear my own muffled footsteps as I cross the plush carpet deeper into the auction house. The whispered conversations, through masks, make a thin fog of sound compared to the din outside. The signs are in a language I do not recognize, but I can make some educated guesses. The ornate double doors standing locked and guarded must lead to the actual auction hall. There is a short, uncarpeted hall with gleaming, unpolished floors, lined with several doors. After a second, I see a giggling pair exit one of the rooms and straighten their clothes. That explains that then. There is one door that is a little more than a window and hinges, left open. I peer inside for a second, only to see an ordinary office. Come in. The stranger, sitting behind the desk, waves to me, and so I step inside. Pardon me, I didn't mean to intrude. You can't intrude on the bookkeeper. I must always be available. You must be? How else could anyone check to ensure I'm not meddling in the books? Does it really come to that? Well, I have no such concerns. A buyer, are you? Couldn't I simply be a browser? Haha, you must really believe someone would come to the marketplace, to the auction house, just looking to see what they find? I suppose someone must have, in all of history. Well, if that's the scale you're measuring by. You, however, are not here to browse. No, I'm not. You're right. I'm here to buy. Shall I show you the catalog for the next auction? I would appreciate it. The bookkeeper stands and hands me a sizable booklet. Do not damage it. Do not leave here with it. They open a drawer to their desk and hold up a knife. It's a little thing, but I have no doubt they could kill me with it. Then they sit again and resume their work. I flip through the book. There are objects of unimaginable value. Works of art by artists even I know by name. An exquisite jeweled tiara fit for any princess. The deed to a country manor on the surface. Then there are the wonders I could have never dreamt of. The bird wreathed in flames that never burns. The still beating bloodstone heart of some rock nymph. A potion of clear vision. I flip a page and am met with the miserable exposed face of a young adult. Their posture is low and defeated, but they are beautiful. The text informs me that whatever is paid in the auction will be sent to their family within the mountain. Surely not. I flip the page again. There are no other people in the catalog, but one is enough to turn my stomach. Thank you, bookkeeper. Finished already? What I want isn't in here. And what is it that you want? I'll check the history, see when it was last sold. I bite my tongue for a moment. Lunar Ichor. An unlucky one, aren't we? I couldn't say. If you would, bookkeeper. They shuffle through a notebook. I try to read the text, but it is nearly impossible to interpret their faint pencil scratchings. More bad luck to heap on your pile, I'm afraid. The last sale was 3 months back. It's unlikely we'll get another sale for months yet, unless someone new comes with a stock. It couldn't be easy, could it? And what was the final price for it? For a lot of 12? The number they tell me is stomach-dropping. I could not gather those funds in a lifetime. Even divided 12 ways, the price for a single vial is well beyond my means. My life savings weigh heavily in the coin purse under my robe. Dead weight, it seems. By your silence, I guess you don't have the money. Thank you for your time. I try to keep my voice neutral. When I leave the auction house, I momentarily lose my sight and hearing as I adjust again to the dim, echoing cavern. I don't notice the direction my feet are taking me. My hopes for a quick visit to the marketplace have been thoroughly dashed. Now I have to determine what to do. I can't afford to give up. I cannot allow myself to give in to difficult circumstances. If I give up on getting the Lunar Ichor, I might as well throw myself off the mountain. For now, I need a place to stay. My feet ache from the climb up the mountain, and my spirit is draining away in these cramped, noisy conditions. I stop by a stall and ask directions for a decent inn, rest stop, public house, anything. Following the directions through a short tunnel, I wander through a quieter district of the marketplace. Though quiet is relative. The guest house is a challenge to find, though I hesitate to call the ground-down walking paths roads. There are rest houses lining them on either side. The Leaping Bear, the guest house recommended to me, is nothing remarkable. The building has a roof, but the building itself is mostly made of raw wood. The brass doorknob is smooth under my hand, polished by the thousands of guests who come and go. Inside, the atmosphere is boisterous, but on the scale of a handful of people singing a drinking song. The chaos outside is already muffled and distant. Welcome. The woman who approaches has her face fully covered in a bear mask, but her neckline is untied and exposed. I wonder who she works for. Hello. I was told this is a good establishment to stay the night. You were told right. Except the part about night. Here, there's no real difference between night and day. Plenty of folks are up all hours of the day, as you do, just sleeping when they're tired and forgetting the sun ever existed. I see. The bear-masked woman has me sign into a guest book and pay for the night. You have the room for 24 hours. If you're staying longer, I expect you here to pay for more time. If you don't, you might find all of your things at a moon shrine. I'll remember. Thank you. And you'll be needing these. She hands me a dull metal medallion on a leather string and a key. Dear Rufus over there. She gestures to a mountain of a man, also in a bear mask, standing by a door. Make sure only guests go into the rooms. That medallion proves you're a guest. Don't lose it. Or else I'll find my things at a moon shrine. Pick things up quickly, you do. Seems like an important skill to have here. Quite right. She gets back to her business, so I approach the mountain of a man guarding the door to the rooms. Hello, Rufus. I hold up the medallion and wait. I'm not about to rush a man with a bat, especially one as bloodstained as his is. Then he nods, and I am granted passage. He watches me go to my assigned room. I suppose it's a good measure to prevent theft, but then, so is a bloodstained bat. Sleep doesn't come easily at first. How can I risk sleeping in the marketplace? But it does come for me. In the metaphorical cold light of morning, I see the sense in my choice last night. I cannot leave the marketplace without Lunar Ichor, thus, staying is my only real choice. I'm able to order something like breakfast from the Leaping Bear's kitchen, and then sit deep in thought, staring at a bowl of porridge. Eating in this mask is a bit of a bother. I have to navigate the spoon around the mask. There's clasps, you know. I start at the sudden appearance of the proprietress. What? Feel along the side of the mask. There should be pins or clasps holding the bottom part. I do as she said and find little clasps holding the two parts of my mask together. Well, I feel like a proper fool. It already feels strange having my mouth exposed, like a funny kind of nudity. Newcomers are all a bit foolish. It's part of their charm. Thank you, I think. Just keep your wits about you. You'll live. You make it sound so dire. Well, you're here, aren't you? You're not wrong. No one comes here without good reason, I should think. What's yours? A personal matter. Buying or selling? It's all there is down here after all. Buying. Something I might not be able to afford, it turns out. That won't narrow things down too much for her. Well, depends on how you try buying things, doesn't it? Money will get you anywhere if you have enough of it, but there's other roads out there. Is that something you know a lot about? Couldn't say. I only know what stories the guests bring in. She says it flippantly enough that there must be a story there, but I resist the urge to dig. Then, I suppose my next job is to find what paths I can use. Thank you. Oh, not a problem. The masks trouble everyone at first. You just ask for Bruna if you have any more problems. I'll be happy to help. She sweeps away to handle another matter, then I'm left with far more productive thoughts. Money won't get me Lunar Ichor, but something else might. Influence, friendship, violence, guile. My body, if it comes down to it, anything. There's a lot to think about. Am I going to stay in a guest house for weeks or months? What possible ways are there to get Lunar Ichor? Let's start with one foot in front of the other. Over the next several days, I get to learn the layout of the marketplace. It's an ever-shifting rat's nest of stalls and passages and unmanaged pathways, but there are some fixed landmarks. I can navigate somewhat comfortably by these landmarks when they are visible. One evening, based on my own internal clock, the proprietress of the Leaping Bear hints over a meal that as long as I'm well behaved, she would be willing to extend more generous long-term rates to me. I wasn't planning to misbehave, even less so with Rufus keeping an eye on me, and so that settles the matter of lodging for the moment. As for the Lunar Ichor, I'm at a loss. It is rare, absurdly rare, and based on the reactions of those I speak to about it, some aspect of it is very taboo. Likely the condition it treats. I'm wandering one of the quieter passages, clearly natural by how uneven the ground is. It's mostly homes, built on whatever smooth patch of stone the builder could find. But there is one that towers over the rest, a tall church with heavy oaken doors. Where normally I would expect to see a golden 10-point solar sigil, instead there is a more simplistic, crescent-shaped one, the lunar sigil. I suppose the solar god isn't much help down here. I have seen the eerie blue-green light of glowworms and smoky gold of lanterns, but I have not seen the sun since I started my descent. Churches dedicated to the lunar god exist outside the mountain, but not in any significant number. The lunar god, Lunar Ichor, couldn't hurt to ask, could it? I'm not sure I believe that the lunar god must bleed for there to be Lunar Ichor, but there's no harm in checking. Hey! Stop! I halt in my path instinctively, although after a moment I can see no one was speaking to me. Instead, there is a raucous crowd gathering just down the tunnel, shouting and tussling. A few people in utilitarian masks and what looks like uniforms are trying to push their way through. Looks like trouble. We're just gonna go to the church. In my haste to escape the ruckus outside, I scramble towards the entrance. Then, once I ascertain that they aren't locked, I slip through the imposing, massive oak doors. The carvings in the wood press into my palms, a surprisingly comforting, grounding sensation. Then, once the doors close, the change in atmosphere hits me. First is the smell, candle smoke, heavy incense, and cold, crumbling stone. Then comes the solemn silence, the kind that reminds you of your place within these holy walls, and the oppressively tall ceiling. I'm finally alone. Even for just a little while. I take that moment to release the breath I was holding and take in my surroundings. This is where the inhabitants of the underground come to worship the lunar god. It's also a reminder that I still haven't found any adequate leads for the Ichor. When I take a couple of steps down the carpeted path between the aisles, I suddenly make out a figure behind the altar. They're wearing long robes. A priest, maybe? Excuse me? I call out, taking care not to raise my voice too loud. The person shuffles around, and I see they're masked, too. Well, of course they would be. Even those in service of the lunar god can't afford to take risks here. As they approach, I notice the distinct glimmer of a golden brooch nestled between the folds of their clothes, proof of their holy devotion. Their entire appearance is refined and almost ethereal, long silvery locks of hair cascading down their shoulders, delicate fabrics wrapped over their shoulder, and long, perfectly gloved fingers. A rich, silken voice. It takes me off guard. Do my ears deceive me, or has another fight broken out? The priest stops a few meters from me, and from here, I notice that their mask doesn't cover their mouth, which is set into a thin, disproving line. You're right, it's quite the scene outside. I pause. I was hoping I could lay low here for a while. I'm not one for brawls. My star, the church will always be a place of safety for those who need it. Please stay as long as you like. I was taught that all lunar priests call their believers their stars, but it still makes me smile. Well, thank you, Father. A twitch of their lips. Cirrus, you need not call me by those stuffy titles. A man's name, I had a feeling. It's likely not his real one, as is the case with most people in the marketplace. But even a fake name can speak volumes about someone's personality. Would you like to light a candle while you're here? Huh? Sure, why not? I follow him towards the back of the church, past the initial altar, and stop in front of the statue. It towers over us, surrounded by row after row of marine blue candles, and the sight takes my breath away. A sea of light. I don't believe I've seen you around these parts before. Is he making small talk? I light a match and watch the flame flicker softly as I bring it to the wick. But I can only answer with vague pleasantries to make sure I don't divulge important information. No, not exactly a traveler on most days. Think I might see the appeal now, though. Is that so? Despite not being able to see his eyes through his mask, I feel them on me. Cirrus makes no effort to follow up on my last comment, and the two of us fall into silence. You're a bit of an unusual priest, aren't you? His lips twitch again, forming into a polite smile. Would you care to elaborate? I'll consider it. We're standing closer now, shoulders only slightly apart as we watch the new flame sway in unison like the rest. There's such a strange comfort to it all. I could linger here for hours, soaking up the atmosphere. What's it like, being a priest, I mean? Demanding answers of me while not offering up your own? Behind my mask, I suppress a smile at his light prodding. You got me there. Well, I understand your caution. This is by no means a safe environment. But if it's any comfort, my star, I am bound to the lunar scripture. It's my job to ensure the visitors here feel safe and cared for. The words roll off his tongue with practiced ease. I like the way he calls me a star. I know that's what you call everyone, but being called a star does make one feel a little special. My answer makes him pause for a bit. You are special. Everyone is in their own way. If everyone is special, then that kind of defeats the purpose of the sentiment, doesn't it? I'm mouthing off for the sake of it at this point, funneling the day's frustration into banter. But Cirrus doesn't mind. I feel his eyes on me again, with increased intensity. Would you rather I say you're a bit more special than everyone else? His voice is laced with unexpected warmth, teasing me like an old friend would. This time, I can't stop myself from chuckling. I'm not opposed to it. But I think I ought to be heading back soon. Errands won't run themselves. Good luck with that, my star. What can I call you next time we meet? Next time, huh? Harry. Cirrus repeats it, testing the pronunciation. Then, a smile spreads across his lips. It suits you. Thanks. Picked it myself. Quite the mouthy one, aren't you? It's part of my endless charm. That it is. We bid each other a polite farewell, and before I know it, I'm alone in the streets again. I trudge through the market stalls, sweeping over any new available content, as I have every single day since coming down here. Murky-colored crystals, vials filled with shimmering liquids, rare animal leathers. But nothing even remotely resembling the Ichor catches my eye. The serenity that filled me at the church is instantly quashed. Instead, all I feel is dread. I've already been over this. Would Cirrus know anything? It's worth asking, and it's the perfect excuse to head back to the church tomorrow. Until then, I keep walking, because that's all I can do to keep myself busy. At night, I toss and turn. Not even the inn's freshly cleaned sheets do anything to soothe my restlessness. Before I know it, it's the next day, and I've barely gotten a wink of sleep. Bruno stops by for the usual breakfast chatter, but my mind is elsewhere. All I want is answers. Eventually, I'm back at the doors of the Lunar Church. Something about them beckons me, a deep magnetism that draws me straight through the entrance without a second thought. There's a different incense wafting around today. It tickles my nose with notes of mahogany and velvet. I expect to see Cirrus in the same spot as yesterday, but I find him further in this time, with an unmasked woman kneeling before him. It takes me a moment to understand what's happening. The priest doesn't say a word. His stature is imposing and almost regal, practically towering over the other person. Completely different from yesterday. I can't really make out what he's saying, but she doesn't move, and eventually his hand finds its way to the top of her head. Perhaps he's blessing her? I wonder why the atmosphere is so heavy in here. I decide to hang back. It's not my place to interrupt whatever ritual may be going on. My eyes rove over the decor instead, specifically the paintings, and the detailed scenes they depict. Massive oils on canvas, crackling with age at the edges. The larger one shows the two gods at opposing ends, dancing around the earth in harmony. Their arms reach out for one another, as their endless rotations continue on until the collapse of the universe itself, unable to ever reunite. It's a little sad. Harry? I didn't notice him approach. Cirrus's tone is warm and comforting, and the smile right under his mask peeks out as usual. It's as though the ceremony from earlier never even happened. Hey, I'm back. Didn't want to disturb you back there. Back there. Oh. He tilts his head, lips stretching into a mysterious smile. Did I make you curious, by any chance? About the ceremony? Yes. Yeah. You both seem so serious. Don't think I've ever seen anything like it. There's a pleased rumble coming from his chest. She was readying herself for something important in her life and needed some reassurance. So she turned to the lunar god itself and demanded she be fully cleansed. Why? Simply so that she may begin that chapter with a clear conscience. More than that, I cannot say. Privacy and such. That's fine. Thanks for explaining. Either way, I'm sure you didn't come here just to spy on me and the paintings. His comments make me smile. Maybe I did. If I could see his eyebrows, the tone of his voice suggests they'd be raised right now. I guess you're right, though. I'm in need of advice. A pause. My star, nothing pleases me more than knowing you feel comfortable enough to come here for help. Cirrus comes closer, and for the first time, I take notice of his height compared to mine. He's got to be at least a full head taller. What can I do for you? I hesitate, unsure if he really should be trusted or not. I'm looking for something. Lunar Ichor, to be specific. Something in his demeanor shifts when he hears this. You're sure? Quite sure. That's quite the task. What do you need such a precious resource for? Nosy old... Oh, I see. Fractum anima. I thought that illness had very well vanished from this world. His words startle me, as I instantly stare up at his face, hoping to catch a glimpse of his eyes through the holeless mask. The only better way to ascertain if he's telling the truth, if he actually knows what he's talking about. But I see nothing, of course, only the intricate embossing in the metal surface. He knows the name of my illness. Wasn't expecting that. How did you... I've encountered it before, though it remains exceedingly rare. As is the cure, of course. I assume you've messed around and seen for yourself? The weight of the situation returns to me, as my chest feels like it's being crushed. I know. I feel him placing his hand on my head to give it a gentle pat, a compassionate gesture. Then, that same hand trails down to cup my cheek over the masked surface. The sudden intimacy of the gesture makes me jolt. My star. What if I told you there might be another way? Under the privacy of my mask, my eyes go wide. Impossible. I wouldn't be so sure. The lunar god is a benevolent, wondrous being. Goosebumps erupt all over my skin, and my heart leaps into my throat. It's too good to be true. It has to be. There's no way he could have the answers right here. I can't stop staring at him, waiting for him to elaborate. Cirrus's other hand captures my other cheek, so my head is cradled in his embrace as his voice drops an octave. You're shivering. Time around us seems to come to a standstill. I don't have the cure here, not yet, but I want to help you. I see how brightly you shine, and how much you want to overcome this. I could never turn a blind eye to that kind of hunger for life. Will you let me help you, Harry? I guess we have to say yes. Of course, Cirrus. How can I thank you enough? I need nothing. I am simply performing my duty, and knowing that it might save someone makes it all the more rewarding. I'm in disbelief. There has to be a catch here somewhere. I need to know the details. But he's been so kind to me. I have a hard time doubting the validity of his claims. Cirrus readjusts his glove with a practiced movement. I'll need a bit of time. Getting a hold of this substance is no easy feat. The disappointment in his tone is obvious, and I believe him. Even for someone with more influence, there's bound to be obstacles in the way. How will you get a hold of it then? Have you heard of the lunar god's healing prowess, my star? He turns to face the giant statue surrounded by the candles, and motions for me to follow. I have. And how much do you know about it? As we both come to a halt, heads tilted up to get a full view of the statue and its surroundings, I respond with silence. Long ago it was said that priests were able to receive a sample of the blood that flows in these higher beings' veins to save their people. That is the Ichor that we know of today. Pure, concentrated life force infused with their powers. In this case, healing powers. But there is no reliable way to get a hold of it these days. I hold my breath. That being said, this blood had once been taken and thoroughly analyzed by a man who then went into hiding. Rumor goes that he left all his notes behind after passing away. A gasp leaves my lips. You're saying we could find these notes and replicate the composition of real Lunar Ichor? Precisely. My mind goes into overdrive. How could this be the first time I've heard of this? Where do you know all this from? Cirrus smiles wide. This man went by the name of Nexus, and he was a fellow priest from this very church. This has to be too good to be true. It's just not possible. How? Please rein in your expectations, Harry. As he uses my name, the timbre of his voice turns serious once more. I did not know him well. Few people did. He was a reserved person with not much to his name. Finding his residence, or wherever he may have hidden his secrets, is bound to be a difficult task, and I'll need all the help I can get. And even once we find these notes, there is no guarantee we'll be able to replicate it with the information we have, nor that someone will do it. The knot returns to my throat, but I have more to cling on to than when I first arrived. Better to try than do nothing at all. Indeed. Something grabs a hold of me. Determination. Unlike any I've ever felt before. Hope soothing my heart. Even if just for a little bit, I can't quite let my guard down fully. But this is a first step. Eventually, we fall into silence as we stare back up at the statue. Just checking, but it's not as easy as just saying pretty please and then having the Ichor appear before us. He chuckles. Unlikely, but if you'd like to offer a prayer, that will always be encouraged. I contemplate the idea. I think I'd like to. It can't hurt. But I'm not sure how to. I don't know any lunar prayers. Allow me to guide you, my star. I nod. His shadowy mask turns my way, lips set into a neutral line. On your knees. The usual warmth of his voice is completely stripped from his command, and I very quickly realize that this must be the mindset he was in earlier when he helped cleanse the other woman. For now, I obey. Shoulders straight, hands together. The words are efficient and utterly no nonsense. It's easy to tell he's done this a million times. Chin up, Harry. Do not hide your face from the lunar god. Expose your emotions. I feel protected. Surprisingly safe. It's a comfortable feeling knowing that someone is guiding me like this. Though I never felt as though the lunar god was one I believed in, I feel myself opening up to this being, allowing them to see me for who I really am. For a moment, I feel at peace again. You're almost there. Simply repeat after me, my star. I don't know if he puts his hands together as well. I don't dare look back, but he begins a short prayer, speaking solemnly and clearly. I repeat the words after him. Again and again. We fall into a trance, and with that, I hope that my pleas reach the moon. Finally, it's over. I take a moment to regain awareness of my surroundings and raise my head. You did very good. I'm certain your prayers will be heard. He smiles patiently as I rise up from my kneeling position and stretch out. I hope so. Try to believe in yourself a little more. No such plea could fall on deaf ears. I've got my doubts about that. But still, I appreciate your guidance. I'm about to ask if this is how prayers usually go when the echo of the doors creaking resonates through the church. New visitors begin filtering in, and the spell is broken. My inner clock tells me it's time to head back. Thank you for today. I'll come back tomorrow so we can start searching. By all means do. I'll do my utmost to find any leads and let you know if there's anything to work with. We share a quiet smile. Get home safe, Harry. I leave the church and step outside, right back into the darkness. On my way back to the Leaping Bear, I stop at a food stall for some hearty potato soup and allow myself a bit of time to relax. I don't think I'll ever truly get used to not seeing the sun, but I'm starting to warm up to the underground as a whole. Halfway through another sip, I think back on what happened at the church. It was kind of nice. Cirrus may have been pushy, but I can't deny it. That session felt so wonderful in the strangest of ways. Obeying felt natural in that moment. And just maybe, I would want it to happen again. Either way, I need to come to terms with what happened. I have to work hard while I'm here. After loitering around for just a bit longer, I pay for my soup and begin my long detour back. Passing through the marketplace so many times means that I've started becoming a familiar face, and that, in turn, I recognize some of the owners. Still looking? Unfortunately, yes. I'll keep my eyes peeled for you. The owner of the bookstall nods in my direction, and I know without a doubt he will. Like many others setting up shop here, he can be a treasure trove of rumors and information. Say, could I ask you something? Depends what it is. Have you heard of a priest going by the name of Nexus? The shopkeeper falls silent in thought and drums his fingers on the surface of the wooden display table. Can't say I have. Why? heard he passed. I keep my intentions vague, and if he notices, he doesn't press it. Not exactly an uncommon occurrence around these parts. Thanks anyway. Today's search is unsuccessful yet again, but I don't let it bother me. After all, I have Cirrus's lead. Just as I'm about to turn back towards the inn, I narrowly dodge bumping square into someone's chest. Oh. I bow my head in apology, but the stranger fumbles back, distraught. Oh, no, oh dear, I hope I didn't startle you. All good here. Are you okay? Please don't worry about me. I should be apologizing instead. I'm not sure how to feel about this sudden outburst. When I take in their appearance, I instantly know it's one of the noble sons from the surface. His skin sports a rich, sun-kissed glow that almost makes me envious. The high quality of the suit's fabric and the elaborate pieces of jewelry don't lie either. They're selected with obvious care and attention to the outfit as a whole. Even the mask is perfectly coordinated with the rest of his suit. That's not necessary. I'm fine. Look. I hold up my hands to show no harm was done. Oh, I sure am glad. I hope we'll meet again, if you don't mind me saying. You are a very kind person. The person takes my hand and brings their lips up to it, an old-fashioned custom at this point. I'm surprised to see anyone still doing such a thing. And we'll thank the person. There really is no need for this, but thank you. My pleasure. At first glance, he's an easily frightened sort. I'm not sure how much of that is genuine. Please take care, and allow me to make this up to you someday. Person quickly excuses themselves, and I'm left baffled. The underground truly is a strange place. It's a testament to how many different people congregate down here. But you never really know who you're talking to, after all. I shake the thoughts from my head and finally find my way back to my room, where my bed welcomes me after a strange day out. It's funny how familiar this inn room has become, too. Even seeing Rufus's face and his bloodied weapon every day has become something of a comfort. I'm sure that eventually, the church will feel the same. That same church is empty the next day I step inside. There's nothing but the echoes of my own calls for Cirrus and the flicker of candles around the statue. For a while, I simply wait in front of the altar. 5 minutes turn into 10, which turn into 20. At this point, I'm pacing around the candles, wondering where he is. Didn't he say he might have some information today? Curiosity and boredom take me to the back of the church, where I've seen ornate doorways lead to who knows where. Maybe they're his chambers? That's when I hear it. The muffled shouts. The left door slightly ajar, and as I peek past it, as discreetly as I can, I finally catch a glimpse of Cirrus. And he's not alone. There's a strained tension in the air, one far more prominent than yesterday, and it dawns upon me, as I lean further against the wall, that he's genuinely angry. The usually smooth, silken tone of his voice is raised toward the person in front of him. I don't know who it is, but they have their hands raised defensively, and their own words come out with much difficulty. Do better, I promise. Please just give me time. That is not good enough. The venomous hiss makes me jump. I never expected to hear this kind of anger coming from a priest of all people, on holy ground, no less. I can't speed up the process, not anymore. They'll be on to me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Show me that you're sorry. A shiver runs down my spine. What is happening right now? Cirrus expectantly hands the person in front of him something that gleams in the candlelight, pale and deathly. The blade. My body immediately tenses at the sight, and my heartbeat skyrockets. I have to do something. Is it even safe to interfere? Alright, so right here is where all of the endings kind of diverge. I'm gonna walk away this time. No. This is crazy. I can't be seen here. I'm going to pretend I never saw anything. That's the only thing that can save me at this point. Morals be damned. I quietly shuffle my way back to the main hall, and once I'm past the altar, I bolt. Through the church doors, back into the anonymous safety of the crowd, I run until my lungs are on fire and I start feeling numb. I decide to duck into a less crowded alley and lean against the murky wall for support. I'm exhausted, definitely a bit out of shape, but most of all, shaken to the core. I can't believe that was Cirrus. Who was he threatening, and why? Of course he couldn't be trusted. I should have known. Though I feel tears of frustration prickle at my eyes, I will them away with a shake of the head and close my fist, concentrating on my breathing. Maybe there's another way to go about this. What do I do now? We're gonna continue cooperating with Cirrus. It's okay. I'll just return tomorrow, or the day after. I'll never know I saw anything. I only need to stick with him for this information. I head back to the inn, distraught, and contemplate my next interaction with Cirrus. I have no idea how it'll go. I don't have to wait long to find out, of course. When I'm back the next day, he questions where I was, and I lie about feeling unwell. I don't care if he truly believes me or not. Maybe he knows I saw something. As long as he doesn't acknowledge it and gives me the information, that's all that matters to me. So did you find anything about where Nexus left his things behind? I'm sorry, my star. Not yet. He pauses, then smiles. You'll have to give me just a little bit more time. Okay, I trust you. I have to force myself to say that last part. Cirrus tilts his head to the side. Do you really, Harry? My throat feels tight. I do. It feels like the biggest lie I've ever told. And that night, once again, I'm struck with nerve-wracking insomnia that leaves me in a cold sweat the next morning. There's a surprise waiting for me when I arrive the day after, awaiting answers from the priest. Another person stands beside him, muscular and expensively clothed. They seem to be in deep conversation until they notice me, and Cirrus beckons me closer. My star, this is Ark. Ark, please meet Harry. He is a promising candidate, as I just mentioned. Ark assesses me quickly, then turns back to the priest. How much? The alarm bells instantly go off in my head. Hold your horses. What? No, you shut up. What are you doing? Are you trying to sell me? He heaves a sigh. If you'd let me finish. No, he's not for sale. Instead, he will come work for you, and I trust you'll pay him a livable wage. Certainly. They're talking about me, as if I weren't right in front of them. Hey, I'm pretty sure I have a say in whether I want to work or not. This is the only way you'll be able to get the Lunar Ichor. His words hit me hard, though I find it difficult to believe him. He speaks truth. If you're successful, you'll be overflowing with coin. What does this job entail? Cirrus smiles, but he doesn't answer me. same smile stays on his face when he sees me off, as Ark forcibly drags me by the arm and into some shady side streets. He doesn't let go of me until I'm tossed into a small room, one of many in a long corridor, and he tells me to freshen up. The way the room is furnished tells me all I need to know. Chains neatly coiled in the corner, suspension points expertly attached to the ceiling, vials of lotion lined up on the walls, right next to the bed. There's boxes of rope, oddly shaped toys, and all kinds of horrifying magical implements crammed into every corner, including the tiny bathroom off to the side, where I'm expected to make myself as presentable as possible. You have 10 minutes. Take any longer, and you'll have more than a few bruises to worry about. I take a deep breath, then I swallow my pride. Every single bit of it. Because even if it means I'll live in the worst conditions for a while, at least I'll still have hope. Bad end. Cirrus grew bored of you. Alright, now we're gonna find another way to get a hold of Ichor. It's been made abundantly clear to me that people just cannot be trusted here. All that's left for me is to rely on myself. I'm the only one I can trust down here in this godforsaken place. And that's okay. I don't need anybody. I collect myself, dust my robes off, and start walking again. I'll keep checking in on the shops every day, as long as I have to, until I find it. Days trickle by. I have a name, but it seems like despite the ever-changing layout of the market, I can't find anything. The soles of my shoes wear down from the constant walking. My coin pouch feels lighter by the day. It won't be long until I can't even afford to stay at the inn anymore. But never once do I return to the church. I'd rather rot out here in the streets than rely on some corrupt priest's help. At least if I die down here, it'll be with dignity. My search continues. I'm growing desperate. I can feel something gnawing at the back of my mind, demanding freedom. It claws at my conscience, unrelenting. But I have nothing to silence it. It's pure willpower that keeps me on my feet now, every single day. Eventually, my funds run out. Fearing Rufus's bat, I hand in my key to the bare-masked caretaker, who observes me with poorly disguised pity when she sees the state I'm in. Nothing? I shake my head. When I step out of the inn for the last time, my common sense tells me to head back up to the light, where I belong. To bask in the sun and let its rays wash away all my worries. But I can't do that. I'm running out of time. So I stay. I walk every day and sit at the edge of busy streets, silently begging for some cash to feed myself with. I feel my physical self weakening, but my resolve never does. It's a horrible way to live. But at least here, I'll have a better chance of finding the Ichor. And so, I keep walking. Bad end. Your search led you nowhere. And now we're back here. I'm gonna interfere. Wait! Cirrus. My body moves out into the open before common sense can stop me. Both of them immediately whip around, taken out of their moment, and as the other person raises their knife with trembling hands, I realize I've messed up. Wait. Drop it. The clatter of metal on the ground makes me exhale in relief, but not for long. Cirrus steps around the trembling figure, then slowly makes his way towards me. My star? He starts, mouth set into a frown. My first instinct is to step back, fearing the consequences, but my morals are stronger and keep me rooted in place. What is going on here? Why? I don't have the context, but I'm filled with the bitter sting of betrayal nonetheless. How could someone as seemingly kind as him just turn around and take advantage of someone so clearly out of it? Why are you threatening this person? What even... Harry. Cirrus's voice turned back to the warm, comforting one I've always heard. But right now, I don't know if I trust it. You shouldn't be here, my star. I'm simply taking care of some sensitive matters. You have to understand. Sensitive matters, really. You gave him a knife. One that he was going to use on himself. On himself? He pauses. I think you have the wrong idea. What I gave him was not a weapon, but a ritual dagger. One used in the elaborate dance and rituals of repentance. I'm left utterly speechless. I stare at Cirrus, then back at the trembling person. When I ask them if it's true, they nod. I think I should leave. I think you're staying right where you are. When I gaze back up at the priest, he's smiling in a way that gives me chills. Leave for now. We'll continue this later. He dismisses the shivering person without so much as a glance in their direction. They immediately obey and scuttle off. Then the door shuts behind us, and when I ask why Cirrus is locking it, he gives me no answer. He tucks the key away in his pocket, and with that, there's no way out. When I refuse to look up at him, his fingers grasp my chin with surprising strength and force me to meet his masked gaze. Do you make it a habit of snooping around and eavesdropping like this? Usually I don't have to. But then I heard shouting. You poor thing. His smile twists cruelly. I did keep you waiting for a while. Did you miss me? I'm not sure what's making my heart race faster right now, the adrenaline or the fact that he's so close. No matter. I'm going to teach you some manners. Listening in on important conversation is very, very naughty. He steps even closer, completely suffocating me with his presence. Have you ever been punished before, my star? What? Punishment? Yes. I'll think of something adequate for a little eavesdropper like you. Of course, since it is your first infraction, I'll go easy on you. But penance is of utmost importance down here, and I think you'd best keep that soul of yours unblemished. I feel something inside me shiver at the thought. His words sound like the most delicious promise, one that I'm all too happy to help fulfill. Yes, I'm... Hush, little star. As much as I enjoy the sound of your voice, you really do talk too much. He takes a step back, finally allowing me a bit of personal space. Then he immediately turns around and makes his way to one of the minimalist wooden shelves in the corner of the room. There's barely anything in here, save for sleeping arrangements and some storage. His shelves, on the other hand, are crammed full of jewelry, books, and small, neatly labeled vials. It's the vials he's aiming for, as a long digit reaches out to brush over one of their corks. I'm wary of his every move, and when Cirrus is back in front of me, two of the mystery vials in hand, I tense up. I'm aware the situation may have you a little on edge, but I need you to trust that this is for your own good. His expression falls, and in that moment, I wish I could see his eyes. What would I find if I looked deep within? But the more I think about it, the less I understand. Please, For the first time, I hear him beg me. It is a completely alien feeling. What do you have there? I try my hardest to keep my voice neutral as I ask. Cirrus pops one of the vials open with nimble fingers, releasing a sudden waft of a strong, honey-like aroma, cloyingly sweet, almost coating the back of my throat with the smell alone. I think we're staring at each other now. The intensity of it makes my hair stand on end. Raise your mask and open your mouth. We're going to obey. I hardly understand myself right now. I may as well have asked one of the thieves to watch over my purse. But something tells me Cirrus doesn't want to kill me. No, if he did, he would have done so earlier. His intentions, although I fail to understand them, are not evil. So I undo the clasp of my mask, then tilt my head back, lips parted. Perfect. So very perfect. Such an obedient little thing. He approaches, and the first trickle of liquid hits my tongue. The nectar is just as thick as the initial smell, but now that it runs over my taste buds, I'm overwhelmed by the flowery, syrupy aftertaste. I feel it sticking to my lips like a glaze, and when he continues pouring, it trickles down my chin. It doesn't taste bad, but something feels off. As the liquid settles in my stomach, I feel strangely aware of everything. The way my nails scrape over the skin of my palm, the way my chest expands with every new breath, the fragrance of the incense and how it clouds my mind. I promise you, it's just temporary. He speaks in a soothing, measured way. What's temporary? Cirrus's hand rests on my shoulder, and while I feel every single digit through the cloth, the sensation of him trailing those fingers down the length of my arm should just elicit a small shiver. Instead, it feels like a sharp, cold wave that borders on actual pain, taking me entirely off guard. My breath catches in my throat, and even that feels like an overload of sensation, like claws digging around my lungs. There's affection lingering under the cruel curve of his lips, and it takes everything in my power to not make any sudden moves. Now, the sooner you complete your task, the better. You'll see. It's not too difficult, and the lunar god will be so very pleased with you. He's taking his time, walking in slow circles around me, observing me. You're going to do so wonderfully. I notice amidst my panic that the second vial in his hand contains uncooked rice. But why? His thumb pries the cork off the top, and with a tilt of the wrist, he empties the contents of the vial, showering the wooden floors in tiny pale grains. I hate that I feel afraid to ask what it's for. Knees, he whispers, and I know it's not an order I can defy. But the moment my knees touch the floor, the rice digs into my skin, and I instantly understand. My legs feel like they're on fire. The individual grains push further into my knees, and with a muffled curse, I try adjusting my position. What the fuck is this? Just as I shift to look up, the sight of Cirrus holding an actual leather flogger makes me release a strangled sound I didn't know I was capable of making. No, no, no! Easy there, easy. You're going to do it yourself, so it won't be so bad. After all, you're the one who must repent. I take a deep, careful breath. What if I refuse? Cirrus chuckles, but it's devoid of warmth. Then I suppose I'll have to take matters into my own hands, Can't have my little star ruining his chances. We're going to do it ourselves. Okay, I want to obey. It's what feels best. And if that means going through with some questionable things and suffering physical pain, I want it. I want it all. I'll do it. Please allow me. I think my answer semi-stunned him into silence, at least until the grin returns to his face full force. You're such a lovely little one, aren't you? I reach up for Cirrus's flogger, instantly feeling the weight of it in my hand. It's real black leather, braided around the handle for grip, extending into a dozen thin tails. Even just feeling it brush against my fingertips makes me shiver. The effects of the nectar have fully settled in at this point. How about you start with 10? Doesn't matter where, as long as you can use your strength as normal. He pauses. But don't hit any organs. The back is a relatively safe spot to start. Funny that you're thinking about safety right now. Cirrus's masked expression tells me everything I need to know. His patience is running dry. But it's the only thing keeping me sane while I contemplate the idea of inflicting immense pain on my own self. I'm dragging the time out. Surely it won't be so bad. I just have to muster up the courage. As soon as my palms stop shaking. Fuck. With a decisive grip, I move the flogger into position in front of myself. And then I fling it over my shoulder for the tails to reach a spot on my upper back. Ah. The sudden onslaught of pain makes me gasp, and I instantly drop the tool to steel myself and control my breathing. The impact lingers for a while, rippling over the skin and burning painful waves. Shh. Don't swear before our God. Cirrus instantly chastises me before I can say more, and watches me from above with poorly concealed glee. That's one, only 9 more to go. It takes everything to even pick the flogger back up, with how that hit affected me. But I can't stop now. I go for another hit, willing it to land a little lower than earlier. When it doesn't, and the lashings hit the previous spot, I double over again, whimpering into my cloak. I already feel myself breaking into a cold, clammy sweat. Oh dear. His grin is nothing short of sadistic. That must have hurt, you poor thing. I don't even know if I can do all 10 without passing out at this rate. Waiting until the pain ebbs away before going for the next hit takes progressively longer. And every time, I can feel the priest's impatience growing. He's encouraging me to keep going. I can't. Yes, you can. The pain is all in your head, little star. It's all for the greater good, The pain will cleanse you ever so deeply, from head to toe. I promise you're going to feel so much better afterwards. You'll feel so good. His voice is sickeningly sweet, staining my mind with hypnotic suggestions that leave me dizzy. I brace myself for another self-inflicted hit, and this time, I collapse, breath ragged. I can see my hands shaking in front of me, despite my blurring vision. It doesn't take long for me to realize it's tears. Harder. I know you can go just a little harder for me. Come now. His tongue sweeps across his lips to wet them, and in that moment, I think he doesn't look nor sound like a priest. But I keep that to myself as I raise my hand for the final time. When the impact lands between my shoulder blades, I succumb to the darkness. My senses numb, finally. It's the sweetest release. So good, I could keep crying. And then I pass out. By the time I come to, I'm surrounded by the smell of cotton and something feeling warm and soft on my arm. It's just the right, lukewarm temperature. Something like a damp cloth gently dabbing away the sweat and grime on my skin. I keep my eyes closed, fearing it might stop if I happen to open my eyes. The cloth is removed, and I hear the sound of water dripping. When the sensation returns to my other arm, I almost exhale in relief. It feels so comforting that I'm tempted to drip off again. It's when the cloth runs up the side of my neck that my breath hitches. Are you awake, little star? Darn. I decide not to respond. His thumb crawls up to rest over the edge of my ear, and with a deliberately slow, ghostly touch, he runs it around the shell until he reaches the lobe and gives it a little pinch that makes something inside me tingle. Your body is betraying you. Open your eyes, Harry. Talk about playing dirty. I shift on the mattress underneath me. Do all priests make it a habit to fondle their visitors during their sleep? Mouthy from the moment you wake, I see. I bite back a response and take a moment to reassess my situation. The effects of the syrup have long since worn off, though I'm left with a little sensitivity sparking up here and there. Do you want some water? His sudden kindness surprises me, this time, and I nod in response. I hadn't realized how parched I really am. Wait here. Cirrus quickly makes his way out of the room, leaving me alone and disoriented. I need time to organize my thoughts. About that punishment, for example. After all, I know now for certain what kind of person Cirrus is. I need to deal with this to get the Ichor. I don't have a choice in this. It's a disgusting situation I found myself in, and there's no chance of wiggling myself out of it now. Not when it's my only lead. I don't care what I have to go through, as long as I make it out alive and fractum free by the end of it. This mad priest won't break me. And I'll make goddamn sure of it. I lowered my hood while he's gone, allowing myself just a little freedom to move. I'm tempted to remove my mask, but it doesn't feel like the right time. I can't show Cirrus more of my face. My head is still swimming as more questions continue to pop up, one after the other. I doubt that all followers of the lunar god engage in this kind of behavior, unless the underground is a fair bit kinkier than I anticipated. Actually, not very surprising. But that still begs the question of why Cirrus is having me undergo this. Personal satisfaction? A genuine desire to follow some obscure commandments? Questionable morals? Before I can come to any kind of conclusion, he's back with a tray, carrying a fresh pitcher of water and what looks like chocolate? Correct. He hands me the little tray, and I inspect the contents. This better not be spiked again. It won't be, unless you give me a reason to, little star. I'm not sure if he's joking or not. Reassuring. I take a swig of water, letting it soothe the back of my throat before I reach for the square of chocolate. It's dark, with an uneven surface. When I bite into it, I'm surprised by the hint of lavender and Earl Grey that melts in my mouth. Little grains are spread throughout the chocolate, and with each bite, they release a burst of flavor. Volunteers sometimes come help with food, and on the good days, there's leftovers. Could get used to this. We sit in silence for a while, until I set the platter aside and shuffle into a better position against the headboard. How is your back feeling? It's okay. No thanks to you, of course. I'm having a hard time gauging his reaction. Then, his lips tug into another, calmer smile. It's my duty to make sure you're all right. That being said, I have a question for you. Do you need any more aftercare, Harry? Huh? I'm fine. Before I forget, my star, I've got some news regarding the notes. This makes me sit up straighter and attention. Really? Indeed. I'll be sending out someone tomorrow, and if all goes well, they'll be back with positive news. Can't we just go there ourselves? Cirrus seems apologetic. It's not a very safe place to be. I'd rather you stay here. You understand, right? No, yes. I'm glad. Why? Why did that not quite feel right? Something at the back of my mind twists my words, distorting them as they leave my lips. I feel a cold sweat overtake me, even as Cirrus's hand helped me out of bed. How long have you had your diagnosis for? 2 months. Then you still have time. His hands brush the wrinkles from my hood and stay there for a while. Yeah, I think so. I'll keep you safe. For the first time, I hear something akin to desperation in his voice, a barely audible tremble. I promise. This time, I choose to believe him. Best end. Cirrus will keep you safe. Okay, so from this ending, we refused to drink his potion and had him whip us. It was pretty much the same, so we just kind of skipped it a little bit. But now we're here, and he asked us if we need more aftercare, and we're saying we're fine. Before I forget, my star, I've got some news regarding the notes. This makes me sit up straighter and attention. Really? Indeed. I'll be sending out someone tomorrow, and if all goes well, they'll be back with positive news. Can't we just go there ourselves? I'm not sure that's a good idea. Why? I think you should head home for the day. His words leave me confused. Why did his mood suddenly change? Maybe I should. His curt demeanor kind of stings, though I'm unsure if it's because he's withholding information or because he's kicking me out. While I get up and ensure I have all my belongings on me, Cirrus waits in tense silence. But I want answers. So when are you going to be honest with me? His lips pull into a thin line, clearly not in the mood for questions. I have not been honest with me whatsoever, Cirrus. I'm trusting you with my life here, but you can't even be asked to give me a straight answer. Irritation starts to fuel my words. No, instead of that, you're just pulling me along whatever way you like, without any consideration. Just when I'm about to say more, he turns toward me completely, with all trace of annoyance vanished. You're not ready for the honest truth. His words feel like a slap across the face. What? There is so much more at play here than you realize, Harry, and you know nothing of it. Someone who's been here for so little time couldn't possibly hope to understand yet. My mind is racing. There's so many words I want to hurl back at him, but none of them come out. Instead, I take a deep breath. You're full of shit. Go home. We'll talk once you've calmed down. He unlocks the door for me, and I don't waste a second before storming out. I'm tired. A part of me wants to run and never see him again, thinking maybe it'll be easier on my own. But I'm stubborn, and I'll do everything to get what I want. Eventually, Cirrus will understand that. Neutral ending. You won't give up. Okay, so now we're going to play through, and we're not going to take his side, we're not going to trust him, we're not going to do anything to befriend him at all. So we're going to pick not really. Okay, so now we're at the end without befriending him at all. So we'll see how this ends. Before I forget, my star, I've got some news regarding the notes. This makes me sit up straighter in attention. Really? Indeed. I'll be sending out someone tomorrow, and if all goes well, they'll be back with positive news. Can't we just go there ourselves? Cirrus purses his lips, taking the time to think. I suppose I can't stop you. We could go now if you'd like. I feel a surge of energy shoot straight through me as I leap out of bed, then readjust my hood. I've never felt more ready. Let's go. He chuckles. Eager. I dismiss the comment and make my way towards the door that has since been unlocked. When the night air hits my face outside the church, I find myself completely relieved. I never realized how suffocating that small room was, even in comparison to a literal cave. Cirrus guides me in silence, through a long series of winding, maze-like passages, through progressively more and more obscure stalls. We eventually find ourselves in front of a row of small, decrepit homes, one of which is barely standing. The door is broken down, and the walls are crumbling. But that is the one he leads me towards. Then I see it. The desk, with a stack of documents, almost as though waiting for us. What I don't see is the thin little line of magic running across the floor, barely shimmering amidst the dust. By the time my foot passes through it, the floorboards spread apart with a sharp crack, and suddenly, blades shoot up from the gap and into my flesh. I can't even make a sound, not when my entire body is impaled and falling apart, landing on the floor with a sickening squelch. I feel strangely full. The sharp edges cut like butter through my organs, muscles, and skin, leaving me to bathe in a horrifying, unceremonious puddle of my own bodily juices. The life drains out of me, and I barely manage to hear Cirrus sighing before my consciousness shuts down, never to come back. I'll have to thank them for setting this up. He fell right into it. Cirrus makes his way to the remains of Harry and kneels down, petting his head. You're okay now. You don't have to suffer anymore. Even better? Now I won't have to listen to that little mouth going off. Worst end. He put you out of your misery. Okay, so in total we have 20 endings, and we have 3 different character endings. So this is looking like it's going to be probably a 4-part series, each video with one character's route. But that's it for the first part. That was all of Cirrus's endings. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to like it, subscribe, comment your thoughts down below. Don't forget to check out the Patreon. There's not much there, but we're going to be adding to it. And thank you to all my Patreon subscribers that I have already. You guys are the best, and thank you so much. But until next time, you guys take care of yourselves.